in by the Richardson family until a home could be built. In preparation for the future arrivals, new land was cleared and homes were built over the next several months. It also served to keep minds occupied. They no longer feared solely for others. Now, they also had to worry the demon would choose another escape tool. Meanwhile, the fourth settlement, excited to be on dry land, wasted no time in restoring the village. My, how quickly time flies as these pages fill. I should end this here. It would be unfortunate to have Patricia cross with me on my first night as a writer. Perhaps I shall try my hand at a love poem once I gain some confidence with the pen. I swear to you, I remember the moment I wrote that line. I was thinking to myself, I wish there was a way to convey a wink through the written word. Ethan, I don't care if the battery died. Don't interrupt story time. You should know better. We knew people who were hanged for less. Sorry about that, friend. It's almost torture having a drawer full of phone chargers but no electricity. Yes, indeed. I did tell you the power was out on your first visit, and technically that's the truth. It's been out for 3 years since the old generator went kaput. Why are you rifling through your bag? You looking for something? What's a battery brick? It does what? Are you sure you don't mind? Wow, Ethan, thank our kind friend for restoring the movie magic. Well, that should keep him nice and quiet. January 31st, 1677. I may not have long tonight. Trish was not pleased with my absence at the children's bedtime, nor my lateness to our own. If I don't want to bunk with the boys, I will need to retire much earlier. I thought of this journal all day, and how Father not only documented the events that happened, but sought new information as well. I have indulged fantasies of meeting the shaman in the Great Mountains, but I don't dare make the journey myself. I could petition Tim to send a small party. It is truly the wisest strategy. Sooner or later, the demon will escape, and when it does, we will likely be the first to fall. If not in our lifetime, our children's. Yes, I will go to him first thing in the morning. Now, back to the fourth colony. They had a fraction of the work previous settlements endured. The forest had less time to grow back, leaving smaller trees to clear, and many homes only needed repairs before they could be moved into and cleaned. The earliest complaints were in the second month. In the dead of night, Matthew Brown and his wife Harriet woke to fast, heavy banging at the front door. Matthew dressed and rushed downstairs, nearly tripping on the steps in his haste. He could not fathom a reason someone would be so far out at his farm, but the knocking stopped as he reached the landing. A sick feeling in his stomach made him retrieve his rifle before slowly approaching a window. Pressing his back against the wall, he turned his neck to peer outside. There was nothing near the door. Moving to the other side, he saw only darkness. Matthew maneuvered to the opposite window, stepping in front of it and almost losing his stomach when a face stared back. He screamed, and his reflection with him. Harriet came to stand by the window, startling him anew. Feeling foolish, Matthew steeled himself and unbolted the door. Lantern held high, he stepped outside. They heard someone calling for help from the forest, but said it sounded unnatural, as if someone who did not know our language were trying to use the word. Unsure what to do, Matthew called out, asking what was wrong. The voice went silent for a moment, then, in the same odd cadence, replied. Harriet ran indoors, trying to pull her husband along, but he was rooted in place. He called out again, asking their name. After another pause, the voice choked out. While growing deeper with each word. Not waiting to hear more, Matthew joined his wife and locked the doors. Nothing else happened that night, and no one believed their tale in the morning. Harriet says they believed the village was haunted by the ghosts of the dead. After she came to Jamestown, she shared her experiences with the elders. They believe, as Kawani had warned, another evil entity had been attracted to the demon's power. They will not tell me what this new creature is, claiming to speak or write the name would only increase its strength. Whatever it is, they act as if they are familiar with its kind. I hope to learn more on this matter, though I wonder how many of these abominations can coexist. Is there no chance one might kill another? Tarnations, it's time. Damn my fool brain. I shall bunk with the boys yet. February 1st, 1677. Once again, I find myself thinking of this moment all day. I have fantastic news. Tim has agreed to my request. I am not comfortable with our brother James leading the expedition, but I know he stands the greatest chance of success. My conscience can rest easier knowing he chooses this dangerous path freely, with excitement. They will leave as soon as the weather turns warm, and the journey will be long, difficult, and dangerous. I will not let myself dwell on possible negative outcomes, but the venture will take months with optimistic estimations, years at worst. If we are lucky, they may return with viable information before a fifth colony tries to settle Dirge Lake. Returning to matters of the fourth settlement, I spoke with Tim's spiritual advisor regarding Harriet Brown's claims. Like the elders, he became angry, refusing to speak on the matter. Whatever it is, he too fears it more than the ghost, lake monster, and demon combined. If these creatures came to the demon, drawn by it, does that mean they are not likewise confined? Perhaps I shall desist further attempts to identify it. Instead, I'll continue with the colony's next tragedy. It was a few weeks after the happenings at the farm when 4 hunters walked into the cursed woods and none returned. When a search party was formed, they only found scraps of bloodied clothing. The men were a heavy loss on a small community. Every person has a part to play, and storing food for the winter is a key element to survival. Desperate to find reason in the chaos, they blamed a bear for the deaths. Pamela Mayfield's son was one of the deceased hunters. A single good thing I can write concerning this incident is that her daughter-in-law and grandchildren joined her in Jamestown. The following month is when Matthew Brown disappeared. His wife said they had only begun letting down their guard when their new dog leapt from its blankets, barking savagely. Seconds later, loud, desperate banging shook the door in its frame. The farmer retrieved his rifle while Harriet soothed the dog. It continued to growl, roll its throat, hair and tail standing erect. "Who goes there?" Matthew shouted. The knocking stopped, but there was no answer. The hound let out a slight whimper, but remained on guard. Harriet was trying to pull her husband away when a series of sharp bangs came from the kitchen. Matthew rushed through the house to see the shutters flapping wildly. After securing them in place, a crash, a hollow scream, and more furious barking sounded simultaneously. He returned to see the door standing open, his wife frozen in shock.
It's too late to repent.
He ran outside, calling its name. This snapped Harriet from her stupor, and she begged Matthew to return. He refused, stating that he could not afford to lose the expensive hound. Its future puppies would be too important to their livelihood. She watched in horror as her husband ran into the forest, rifle in one hand, lantern in the other, calling for a dog that would turn out to be hiding in the bushes beside the house. Harriet discovered it whimpering after it was too late to recall Matthew.
You must be honored to
She
meet
and her
me.
pet were the last ones to escape before things became truly perilous. The elders insisted on personally inspecting each new resident for signs of possession. But it was a small price to pay. Some have told me they would have traded their souls for shelter across the river if that were the price. Most expressed relief with their
This is our
interrogations,
chance.
finding comfort in how seriously the
The
matter was
truth of
considered.
life and death.
I do not
revealed in
know
an
much of
endless
the outside
sanctuary.
world, but
It's
I have
but a
learned
vision.
enough to understand I would live nowhere else. Alas, I once again retire. I must wait with the dawn tomorrow. There are weeks remaining
It's too
in
late
winter,
to repent.
yet our own food stores run low.
The time
I will need to forage before another blizzard snows us in. I tell you can't appreciate today's luxuries without understanding what it was like having mouths to feed before grocery stores. Now that's something, ain't it? Grocery stores? Boy, would I love to go into one,
Do
just
you
for the
know who I
experience.
am?
No, wait, better
seen a
yet,
diamond
fast
this
food.
big?
That would be a treat. I know you're ready to hear more, but I thought you might need a break. Besides,
Lemon
the
tea?
fire has gotten
Never
a little
heard
low.
of it.
The movies are spoiling that boy. If it gets any darker in here, something really is liable to come down the chimney, and it won't be Santa. Last time it took us weeks to get rid of the smell and stains. Never mind all the hows and whats. Hold your hopping horses while me and the potato sack throw on some more logs. Then I need to check a little something outside.
Let's make it quick. Take this!
There we are. Sorry about all the commotion out there. It got a little dicey for a second, but it's fine now. Trish's mother popped by. She's having one of her spells again, but I don't expect she'll be back tonight. Oh, well, that's too long of a story to get into tonight, but if you ever see a tall woman with wild, fire-red hair and a missing eye, run away. She has good days and bad, but you don't want to get close enough to find out which she's having. Here, let's get back to the story.
Let's go.
February 3rd. I missed one night of writing, but it feels like weeks. Yesterday, I departed before the sun was fully risen. Game is scarce in the winter, but
Step
I
aside.
did not return without
I have
meat.
no interest in stories.
There's no greater shame for a man than failing to feed his
What are
family.
you looking at?
I procured enough food to carry us safely through the last snows, but I had no energy remaining for the journey. I was barely able to remove my shoes before collapsing into
Do you
slumber.
know who I am?
When I am finished telling
Ever
of the
seen a
fourth
diamond
settlement,
this big?
I do not know what I will have to write about.
Yours!
The everyday life in Jamestown is hardly of any interest.
Let me tend
My
to your
eyes grow
wounds.
heavy at the mere thought of
Look,
discussing
listen, feel,
crops,
catch.
chronicling births,
This
and
is our
deaths,
chance.
but what else is there?
Time to show you.
After Harriet Brown fled, the small village remained quiet for nearly a week until the next appearance. Shortly after nightfall,
worry about me.
Ronald and Janice
Let's
Burns
make it
knocked
quick.
on every door in search of their missing
The
daughter.
truth of life and death.
Thorough inspection
revealed
of
in
the
an
village
instant.
revealed
This
Julia's last
sanctuary
known whereabouts
is but
to
a
the
vision.
stables, but it could not be determined where she next went.
Time to twist.
Puzzled over her disappearance,
Let's go.
heated words were exchanged regarding the next course of action. Her parents were adamant she would never stray far, especially alone. The forest was the only place not yet searched. Many agreed to a morning search, but only Ronald's two closest friends agreed to
Clemency?
immediate action.
Never heard of
The
it.
three men ventured into the dense, dark
time is
woods.
now.
Thorny brambles tugged at their legs as they called for Julia. The torches were difficult to maneuver through the low-hanging vines and limbs, but they refused to turn back. Hoping the young girl could not have traveled far, they planned to only go a little further before turning to
somebody
circle
needs
the
a doctor.
settlement's perimeter. They came to
Gotta
a
get
sudden
those
halt
vitamins.
when the loud snap of a broken
Don't
branch
worry
sounded
about
to
me.
their left. Standing back to back, two men held their torches high, while the third aimed his rifle in the direction of the noise. There was only silence
Just a
as they waited.
scratch.
Ronald called for Julia, but no answer came. They walked a few yards more until the treetops overhead began to shake violently, despite the fact no wind blew. Coming to another stop, they could only stare up in horror as a giant black shadow moved from tree to tree above them, circling the three men.
Rules are made to be broken.
David Sullivan dropped his rifle to the ground and fled in terror. The thing in the trees stopped quickly, turning away to chase David like a cat with a mouse. Greg Jones and Ronald stood frozen in terror.
Maybe you can
The
get
trees
it
following
down.
their friend's trail shook
Let me
as the
tend to
beast
your
chased him
wounds.
down. He was out of sight when David's death wails were heard, but that did not make it easier to hear.
Let's make it quick.
After the screams fell silent, the two men woke from their trance. No moon or stars could
Step
be seen
aside.
from beneath
I
the
have
forest
no
canopy,
ties now.
but they feared the torch would reveal their location. Light held low, hearts thudding, they retreated away from the place their friend was killed. They could see hardly a foot away, but they did not pause, focusing
must be
only on
honored
the
to
next
meet
step
me.
ahead. The sound of their heavy breaths broke the silence, adding another unsettling
Time to
layer to
show
the
you.
atmosphere. Greg has always claimed he felt the thing's eyes before he heard it return. They were barely 50 yards from salvation when a shadow streaked by
are
their
you
right,
looking at?
then across their path. Mr. Jones says its outline was visible for hardly a second, but he is certain it was
somebody needs
almost
a
7
doctor.
feet tall. Its head and back
get
were
those
disproportionate
vitamins.
to the rest of its body. The sight
Let's go.
cost him a moment's hesitation, but Ronald sprung forward.
Do you
Had
know
with
who I
David,
am?
the beast shot through the trees, giving
Ever
chase.
see a diamond this
Screams were heard by all in the village.
Oh, you!
Greg escaped as his friend died in agony. Nothing more could be done for the dead.
The
All
truth
efforts
of
of
life
the
and
morning
death,
search were called
revealed
off.
in an instant.
Janice had to be
Sanctuary
physically restrained
is
to
but a
prevent her
vision.
from entering the forest. Her mind has never been quite right since. But considering the terrible events of the following morning, that should not come as a surprise. Ah, damn. Yet again, I have stayed at this desk too long. The rest will have to wait. Holy smokes, folks. We got a live one. Assume positions. Trish, it's clear. You can bring our friend out now. I'm terribly sorry for the rude interruption. It's been a long time since my mother-in-law was so riled up. I think she's just curious about you. But don't worry, I don't plan on doing any introductions. Well, that's kind of you to say, but I feel just awful about this mess. You went paler than a bucket of white paint when that door flew open. Most can't get inside at all, but we tend to be persistent in this family. Don't you worry, though. I promise this time I'm sure she won't be back tonight. And probably not for a while. You and your specific questions. Hey, it's getting pretty late. We better get back to it, or we won't have time to finish the next entry. February 4th, 1677. Today I visited James to discuss his travel preparations. He believes they will be ready to leave a few days earlier than estimated if the weather continues to warm. I am both worried and excited about the upcoming expedition, but I fear for my brother's life most. I cannot imagine how I will cope with the anxiety for such an extended period. Last night, I had a frightfully vivid nightmare. Like my predecessors, I believe dwelling on these morbid topics are affecting my mind. It was so real, I can almost still smell the blood. In my dream, I was part of the 4th settlement. 3 men and I were deep in the cursed woods, hunting. I have never seen them, yet I knew them in the moment. After a long day, we packed our meat and began the hike home. We walked for hours as day faded to dusk, long after we should have returned. There was only one trail where we hunt. We could not understand how we became lost. Then an argument erupted. 2 wished to turn back in search of familiar surroundings. Myself and the other were determined to continue forward. Eventually, exhausted and frustrated, we split up. If I were truly in such circumstances, I have no doubt I would retrace my steps to familiar territory, yet in my dream, the idea was unthinkable. It grew darker by the minute, and we could not afford further delay. I thought of my family's worry if I were forced to camp overnight and walked faster. Eventually, we saw a soft orange glow ahead. In my mind, I knew we should run away, but my feet carried me against my wishes. I assumed the same was true for my companion. He walked alongside me, equally entranced by the mysterious lights growing brighter at our approach. The path we walked opened into a small, dead clearing. Not one blade of grass grew within the circle. Only a stone altar stood in the otherwise empty clearing. The source of the light seemed to be dozens of glowing, I don't know how to convey, orbs or sacks hanging in the surrounding trees. They were the size of watermelons, but soft and oozing a thick liquid. They writhed as if something moved inside. My innards tangled at the sight. I saw my partner walk forward, hand outstretched, mouth open. I wanted to scream for him to stop, but I only watched. I still feel the bile that rose in the back of my throat when he touched me, only for it to burst. A foul, yellow liquid covered the man, and I could hear the sizzle of his skin beneath his screams of agony. I covered my eyes, but could not look away as the substance reduced him to a puddle. Long as I live, I may never lose the image of it. there was a slight rustle in the tree directly above, and before I could move, it dropped from the branches, landing behind me. I felt the vibrations in the ground and heard the crunch of leaves as it landed. I willed my feet to flee, but lost all control of bodily functions. I was helpless as I felt hot, putrid breath on the back of my neck. A single claw lightly touched my head, traced down to my shoulder and around my throat before stopping. With barely a pause, 2 rough, bony hands squeezed my head until I thought my skull would shatter. The pressure was so intense, my vision blacked out. The last thing I heard before waking, drenched with sweat, was,
"You are too weak."
It seems foolish to be so disturbed by a mere dream, but I do not have it in me to write more this night. At least Trish should be pleased. February 6th, 1677. A short break is exactly what I needed. I feel refreshed and eager to write again. The morning after Ronald and David were killed, the village woke to a stable boy frantically ringing a bell, shouting for the doctor. When the boy was calm enough to communicate, they learned the body of Janice Burns was in the loft, concealed beneath the hay. 2 men were dead, and she never left the stables. Her clothes were ripped, and she bore the marks of being strangled, but she was not sexually violated. The already divided community became hostile, some trading blows amidst the arguments. I cannot imagine their position. In a place with so much evil, how does one know when it is truly the work of man? A few days later, Jeffrey Morris returned home to find his wife missing. This time, they left no stone unturned in the search. She was found in the church house, her body left lying on a pew in much the same condition as Janice. The only difference was the skin beneath her nails. Knowing the murderer was marked, each man was inspected. When Marcus Deem's arm bore deep red scratches, he claimed it happened while clearing thorn bushes from his land. When his story fell apart, he wept, begging for forgiveness, claiming evil spirits forced his hand. Several witnesses say the man showed no signs of remorse before caught, but even guilty, I do not know if he deserved his fate. The man was already disliked in the community. He had no family and few he could call friend. The 2 factions of believers and non-believers were both crazed with fear and anger. It is difficult to get clear answers regarding how the decision was made. I believe all parties feel guilt for their actions, but it was decided Marcus would be the test to prove if monsters are real. Fearing the lake monster least, as it is theoretically confined to the lake, they tied Mr. Dean's hands and feet, putting him on a small raft. They gave him a makeshift paddle, stating he would go free if he made it to the other side. No one spoke as the man awkwardly rowed. The only sound was the splash of his oar and a slight shuffle as he repositioned himself. He could only row on one side for a few strokes before he began turning.
The truth of
Each time
life
he
and
changed
death
sides,
revealed
he
in
almost
an
lost the
instant.
paddle.
This
He was near the center when
is but a
something large
vision.
splashed in the boat behind him. His head snapped sharply to the side, looking for the source, but the water went still before anything more happened. Rowing faster, the raft rocked side to side with his clumsy,
Rules are
panicked
made to
movement.
be broken.
In mid-stroke, Marcus's paddle froze. He could be seen struggling to pull it from the water, but it appeared stuck. Another splash sounded as the oar was ripped from his grip.
You've outstayed your
The
welcome.
resulting wave pushed Dean away, and the crowd gasped as pale, grayish-blue tentacles shot from the water, wrapping around the screaming man and pulling him under. He never resurfaced.
Ever see a
It
diamond
was a long
this
time
big?
before anyone moved, but when they did, they returned to their homes silently. As my forefather once wrote, I do believe the
must be
demon
honored to
understands
meet
when the
me.
people have decided to leave. They gathered in the morning and agreed they could be ready to go in 2 days. With Marcus deceased, they did not believe themselves to be in immediate danger so long as they avoided the lake and forest. That assumption cost them dearly. Like
Looks
so
like
many
somebody
before
needs a
them,
doctor.
brother was turned against sister, husband against wife, no one was safe. Helen Atkins smothered her baby before disappearing into the forest. John Newman was stabbed to death by his wife, and their son vanished in the chaos. Eric Smith, only 7 at the time, hid in a closet as his father murdered his sister and mother before his footsteps could be heard leaving the house. Each survivor holds
What
a
are
similar
you
tale.
looking at?
When the sun rose on the
Maybe
second day,
keep it down.
17 people lived. They did not pause to bury the dead. They left Dirge Lake with what possessions
it
were
quick.
already prepared and did not look back.
Time to show you.
When the wagons rode into Jamestown, they were welcomed and guided to the homes built in their anticipation.
What's in your
Some of our men returned for the livestock
Don't
left
worry
behind,
about me.
but since that day, no one has crossed the river. There's no telling what may live there after so many years, but I hope James will return with new knowledge before we find out. Discovering how and why some are affected and some are not is almost as vital as destroying the demon. Why do some seem to sleepwalk into the forest while others suffer from delusions? Some have experienced both. Is it the work of more than one creature, or
must
do the
be
results
honored to
depend
meet
on the
me.
victim? These questions burn within me, but I am helpless to discover the answer.
Just a scratch.
March 11, 1677.
Let's go.
Finally, I can write something more interesting than the daily drivel. James and a small contingent of men have left
Let me
the
tend
Great
to your
Mountains.
wounds.
The long wait for his return
Do
officially
you know who I
begins.
am?
I already feel as if I
Ever
will
see a
crawl out of
diamond
my
this
skin
big?
with worry, but cannot be helped.
Yours.
If this expedition is successful, it could save countless lives in the
You
future.
don't look so good.
I should not get my hopes up, but my imagination runs
Rules are
rampant,
made to be broken.
and I am at its mercy. That entry babbles on a little bit longer, but the relevant parts are over. Next time we can skip ahead to when the fifth group arrives. Boy, do those folks give me a run for my money. But we don't have time
Step
to get
aside.
into it now.
I have no
The sun's
interest in
coming up.
stoking cotton
We shouldn't
times
press
now.
our luck any. Hold on there, friend. Let me clean out my ears before you repeat yourself. It sounded like you
The
said
truth
you
of
brought
life and
presents.
death, revealed in
Thank you,
this
Gus.
sanctuary,
Oh,
is
shucks,
but a
you
vision.
shouldn't have. I noticed your pack was a little bulgy this time, but you know me, always respecting others' privacy. Bless my oddly corporeal soul. I'm on pins and needles. What is it? Oh my word. Those are Stephen King books. Real ones. Ones where the battery doesn't die. Yes, please, let me give them a good whiff. Really? You bet. Feel free to bring me any books you were gonna donate.
Let's make it quick.
In fact, do you need cash? We have lots just sitting in a dresser. You could update your digital library and donate the old ones. Well, that's just silly, Trish. I'm not scaring our best friend. Look, that's the face of
Looks like somebody needs a doctor.
Hey, I know. Let's get you on the
Gotta get those
trail.
vitamins.
Can't risk anything happening to you, can you, pal?
Appropriate.
I thank you kindly, and will anxiously await your next visit. Come back real soon now. Real soon.
Time to twirl.
Come in, come in. I'm glad you're here early. It's
Let's
shaping up
go.
to be a bad one out there. The wind has a bite, even I can feel it. We might have a blizzard on our hands in a few hours. Make yourself comfortable.
Clemency?
I've had a fire
Never heard
going
of it.
each night since you left. Although,
Time to show
if I
you.
had any sense, I wouldn't bother when I don't rightly
What's
know
in
why.
your
The weather has been
prescription?
that way ever
Appropriate.
since the last bunch tried to live here. It's like the place's version of a welcome party. Gosh, I remember when the last settlement came. What was it, Trish? 1870s? 80s? It's one of those. But I'd have to look to be sure. Don't worry, we'll get to them in due time. Tonight,
What are you
we're going to
looking
skip
at?
ahead a couple years, so I can tell you about the fifth settlement and what my brother learned in the mountains.
It's gonna
No,
hurt.
unfortunately, he returned after the
Do
rest.
you know who I am?
But I think you'll
Ever
be
see a
pleased
diamond
with the story.
this big?
It should answer a few more of those
yours.
questions. Absolutely not. You don't have to worry about Trish's mom. Gail had a run-in with some campers.
The truth of life and
She'll
death,
be sleeping
revealed
off
in
for a
this
while.
sanctuary, is
Not
but a
sleeping
vision.
the way you understand. Oh, before I
Let's
forget,
make it quick.
Here's your battery thing. I can't thank you enough for the extra phone time. You brought us another one. You are the truest of friends.
Step aside.
Well,
I have no
if you're all
interest in
settled
stoking
in,
conflict.
let's get started. May 10th, 1679. There's little I have written in the last 2 years that does not induce sleep, but now I find myself regretful of complaint. Often I have resented the dull happenings here, as if new settlers would somehow justify my brother's absence. Had I not been so consumed with desire to fill this journal with new information, he would be here now. Sometimes I dream James returns safely, his journey successful. Other times his corpse returns, and the once confined evil spreads across the river to devour us all. How long does one hold hope in their heart before it is time to move on? Should we risk more lives by sending another group in search of the first? It shames me to admit relief the decision does not rest on my shoulders, but the fact remains, something must be done. This morning, a small group of weary travelers wandered into our village. They looked defeated. Their clothes were torn, they carried no supplies, and had not eaten for days. As chance would have it, I was speaking with Tim when they arrived, and we were first to greet them. We offered the starving men food to break their fast and heard their tale. 3 weeks ago, their village was burned to the ground by a Comanche war party. The survivors followed the river, searching for a safer location to rebuild. Yesterday, they discovered the abandoned settlement at Dirge Lake and thought it a gift from God. The men we met were searching the surrounding area when they discovered our town. My brother and I launched into desperate explanations as to why it unwise to remain there, but I fear we only succeeded in appearing as madmen. With the offering of food to carry to their people, they waited whilst I gathered supplies. As I collected any useful items we could spare, I implored others to greet the newcomers and share their own tales. Unfortunately, I only worsened the situation, for they were gone upon my return. The moment they saw our dark-skinned residents, they called us fools and left without further delay. Their parting sentiments expressed the desire we reap what we sow in trusting the devil's own. I cannot help but appreciate the poetic irony of their words. We should not blame the travelers for their fear. I cannot fathom what it must be like to watch your home burn as your people die around you, but if they do not heed our warnings, I fear they will be doomed to repeat the same fate. Tim has ordered a wagon be filled with supplies, and at dawn, we will begin the difficult process of crossing the river. Dr. Gordon and Eric Newman will accompany us. Perhaps if wounds are treated and bellies are filled, they will be more amenable to conversation. With any luck, tomorrow's entry will document our success. May 11th, 1679. I do not know why I hope to appeal to desperate men with reason. They readily accepted our gifts, but remained reluctant to speak with us. We congregated in the church, where we could address the people, as Dr. Gordon saw to the injured. The wounds were minor, those with serious injuries perished in the first few days of travel. Even so, the physician worked at a slow pace, providing us more time to explain the peril of their current situation. The men who appeared to be the leaders remained for the duration of our visit, actively engaging in debate. Others came and went in a constant rotation, never speaking. It quickly became apparent they wished to hide their true numbers from us. At first, it was argued we were ignorant to the danger from our own people, and we were invited to join them. We continued in that manner until all wounds were treated, but as we prepared to leave, we noticed a frail young lad hiding in the corner. Several men shouted for the boy to go, but at our continued insistence, they allowed him to be examined. While all suffered from early signs of starvation, the lad, Daniel, is not but bones. It is clear he has been in this condition much longer than 3 weeks. After failing to answer the doctor's questions, a gray-haired man by the name of Frederick Barnes explained the child to be a mute orphan in his care since the loss of his parents 2 years ago. He then offered the boy as payment for the wagon of goods, claiming him stronger than he appeared. Thankfully, I managed to hold my tongue as Tim accepted his proposal without displaying disgust. When it became clear neither party would bend to the other's wishes, we returned home, disheartened. Before departing, we made it known they
What are
remained
you
welcome
looking at?
should their resolve falter, but our words fell on deaf ears. How long will it be before the killings resume? How will we know when it does? It is clear they do not relish the idea of our friendship, and we can only hope pride does not prevent their seeking help when it is needed. Although, after speaking with Daniel, I do not feel guilty in expressing my own wishes that certain men do not make it to
The time is
Jamestown.
now.
On the walk home, we shared our lunches with the lad. Aside from hoping to ease his fear, the doctor says it is urgent to increase his weight. Daniel eyed us suspiciously as he ate, but it was clear he understood our words and listened closely. Imagine our surprise when the boy we
The
believed
truth of
showed
life
an
and death,
aptitude for
revealed in
speech
an
even I
instant.
envied.
This sanctuary
Sickness
is
ravaged
but
their
a
village
vision.
2 years ago, when the boy was only 8, and his parents were among the first to perish. A cruel uncle took him in for a short time, which is where he learned it was better to be fought mute than risk words that might incur beating.
Rules are made
3
to be
months later,
broken.
the uncle was killed by a man whom he owed a large debt, and that is when the child began living in the woods. When desperate, he performed odd jobs in exchange for food, but he was not treated kindly. The day the war party came, Daniel
told
was in
you
a
they were
tree
sick.
hiding from an angry farmer. He saw the large group coming over the horizon, ignorant to who they were or what their purpose may be. As they drew closer, he became fascinated by their painted faces and how they moved without making a sound. When the men were almost visible to the village, they dropped to their bellies. Suddenly, nothing remained but a field of tall grass. It wasn't until they crawled past Daniel's hiding place that he began to understand their intentions were nefarious. His fascination turned to fear as he watched the strangers disperse through the village, silent as shadows. Flaming arrows were shot into homes, and black smoke filled the air. He
Step
described
aside.
the screams
I have
as
no interest in
animalistic.
stoking conflict.
And while men died quickly, he was still too young to understand why the women suffered so much violence, or why the scalps were removed
Oh, poor
afterwards.
you.
Even after witnessing the war party's departure, Daniel was too afraid to leave the tree.
Do you know who I
It wasn't
am?
until the next morning that
Ever
other
seen a dive in
survivors
this
emerged
big?
from the forest to descend.
Oh, you!
Little could be salvaged, and those without living family remained unburied when the villagers set out
This
in
is our
search of new
chance.
land. We were followed at a distance for the first 2 days, afraid he would be abandoned if discovered instead. They put him to work and resumed feedings. I did not
Let me
share my
tend to your
suspicions that he was kept for more sinister intentions, but I'm sure my
listen, feel,
companions thought much the same. Gordon has adopted the boy, wishing to keep close watch over his health. The doctor's own son did not survive infancy, and his wife never again conceived. It warms my heart to know they will make a fine family. At our return, many
must
were
be
angry
honored to
upon
meet
learning
me.
the results of our failed venture. Some are advocating for drastic measures, arguing we
Let's
should
make it
remove
quick.
the newcomers by force if necessary. Thanks to the lab, we now know they only numbered 46. I, however, believe that would only serve to reinforce their assumptions of our character. Even if it were a morally acceptable response, women and children are present.
The truth of
One
life
would
and
never allow such
death, revealed
fiendish
in an
actions.
instant.
It seems all we can do
This
is wait.
sanctuary
I do not
is but a
believe there were
vision.
any arguments we could have used to change the newcomers' minds, for they know they
What
do
are
not
you
have the
looking at?
resources to build from scratch. To happen upon an empty village as they have must truly feel like a blessing.
Keep it down!
I only hope they have time to recover from their journey before they must battle the evils in their new home. Perhaps when they experience the cursed woods firsthand, they will wish to reopen discussions regarding Jamestown. I should retire from this. This is the most I've written in years, but I should not press Trish's patience. I have a feeling I shall soon spend
Rules are
many
made to be
hours
broken.
I hope you don't mind a quick break, but we should tend the fire. I don't think we've had a blizzard like this in 50 years.
Do you know
Good
who
thing I
I am?
stacked the logs in the kitchen because that door ain't open until the sun is up. We aren't taking any chances after Gale's little outburst. Besides, Christmas is just around the corner, and I don't think I can
Let's
face
go.
eternity knowing I let my best friend's soul get sucked into a black existence and then the suffering.
Looks like somebody needs
Talk
a
about ruining
doctor.
the holidays, am I right?
Gotta get those vitamins.
What was that? Hold on. I can't hear you from the kitchen. I'll be right back. One more second, friend. Ethan, get off your lazy ass and grab some of those logs. Can't you see my hands are full?
You must be honored to meet me.
Here we are, centuries later, and he still has no
Time to twirl!
let's see. Where was I? Ah, yes, of course. The day we brought Dandy home. I hope you believe me when I say it's a kindness to fast forward a bit. Our time is best served by skipping to the next entry regarding the 5th settlement. May 29th, 1679. It has finally happened. This afternoon, a traumatized young woman stumbled
Let me
into our
tend to your
village.
wounds.
How she crossed the river with an infant in her state, I cannot imagine. But they are recovering at the Moon residence until permanent accommodations can be
Much
arranged.
better.
It seems we exacerbated her fears in our friends of welcome.
Stay up!
Those present when she arrived rushed
Don't
her
worry
side,
about me.
eager to hear the news. But it did not appear so
time's
innocent
now.
from her perspective. The women were quick to remedy our folly, taking her into their inner folds and tending to the child. We men were left to wait out of door. Our wives learned her name and learned to flight. Our destiny is like a fuse, and her tale is enough to give me chills. It's one thing to read events long past, but it is quite another to know these horrible things are happening as we sleep soundly in a neighboring village.
Take this!
Perhaps removing the settlers by force would not be
It's
the
too late
extreme
to
measure I
repent.
Do
previously
you know who
believed.
I am?
But again,
Ever see a diamond
does not
this
rest
big?
Trish, knowing I would wish to record every detail, was kind enough to take notes as the girl
Clemency?
recounted her daring escape.
Never heard of it.
Since exhausting their limited provisions, the people have
Rules
struggled
are made
for
to be
each meal.
broken.
Even though the lake is green, it still holds many fish. Yesterday at dawn, 4 men swam in the slimy waters. with
Step
2
aside.
large nets.
I have no interest in
Those who have
still
led these journeys will know what came next, as surely as I did.
Let me tend to your
This
wounds.
of life and death,
Rebecca
revealed in
and the other
this
wives
sanctuary.
watched from the shore as
It's
their
but a
husbands
vision.
divided into pairs to show their position. They caught several fish quickly, doing much to raise their spirits. As the moods lightened, sounds of laughter filled the air. It was Rebecca's husband, Gilbert, who first yelped in pain, but he thought his leg was cut by debris. Then his partner, James, shrieked in surprise,
Clemency?
dropping the net in his
Never
frantic
heard of it.
flails. He spun in circles, kicking about wildly as he held claims of something flying, wrapping around his ankle.
Oh, poor
Gilbert
you.
admonished him for the panic, insisting it was only seaweed which entangled him. The other pair began swimming with the commotion, unsure if their fellows needed assistance.
Let's make it quick.
As they hurried across the lake, Jameson calmed his erratic movements. All seemed peaceful once again, and their friends were returning to their original positions. Andrew Foster was pulled out. He was gone instantly, and the resulting ripples disappeared as quickly as Mr.
You don't look
Foster
so
himself.
good.
The remaining 3 stared at the empty space, dumbfounded for several minutes
Look,
before
listen,
the wails
feel
of Andrew's wife spurred them to
Step
action.
aside. I
The
have
men
no
took
interest in
turns
stoking
diving into the
conflict.
murky depths until Jameson also failed to emerge. Rebecca blames herself for Gilbert's loss. She begged he swam
What are you
ashore when
looking at?
Jameson did not return. Her desperate pleas freed him from his terrified stupor.
Time to
He
twirl!
lunged forward and screamed
This is
as
our
he
chance.
was roughly yanked beneath the surface. The last man,
Take this.
Terrence Fulton, was able to escape as the lake monster, for who knew the truth, devoured Mr. Hughes. The incident compelled some to finally consider our warnings.
You
but
must be
most
honored to
believed
meet
a
me.
predatory
The truth
fish
of
was
life
false.
and death,
The
revealed in
information we
this
find any
sanctuary.
trouble are the
It's but a
conditions
vision.
Rebecca was forced to flee. The Fultons also wished to depart.
What are you
but
looking
Mr.
at?
Barnes forbade any from leaving. He deemed each person vital to their survival, and that to abandon the settlement would be akin to murder. The man's methods of control are sickening. Rebecca left home in secret just before dawn, and it is a miracle she made it here. Timothy was called for a meeting to discuss what actions, if any, should be taken in effort to assist those held
Let's
against
go.
their will. We may outnumber them, but they are frightened,
you know who I
desperate
am?
people. Few things are more
Ever
dangerous.
see a diamond this big?
My head throbs from weighing the choices in my mind.
Yours.
Perhaps a good night's rest will lend clarity to the situation.
Let's make it quick.
Tomorrow, I will write of what has been decided. May 30th,
Looks like
1679.
somebody needs a doctor.
We will not cross the river. I thought myself in favor of lending
Rules
aid,
are made to be
but now I am
broken.
certain Tim was right to refuse. I considered only the human obstacles we would face, failing to acknowledge the
You're
foolish
welcome.
deceit I had spent so many hours studying in that first old journal.
Let me
There
tend
would
to
be
your
no way
wounds.
to ensure we did not fight amongst
Gotta get those
ourselves as we
vitamins.
struggle to free people who
Don't worry about
ultimately
me.
decide they do not want our help. Would the Fultons still wish
Time
to
to
join us
show
if
you.
we were forced to harm their friends in the process? There is simply too much at risk on both sides. All we can do is welcome any who make it this far and defend our homes against those who would seek to do harm. We think it is unlikely men of their nature have the courage to face
must
us
be
in real
honored to meet me.
confrontation. But Tim has arranged night sentries for the foreseeable future. If they serve no other purpose, Trish tells me Rebecca is most comfortable by their presence. Our new friend is opening up to the women more now that she is rested, and her grief for Gilbert has set in as reality. The poor girl is in good hands with Mrs.
Time to
Miller.
twirl!
She can mourn in peace
You don't
knowing
look
she
so
and her
good.
child are safely away from danger. It is difficult not to dwell on thoughts like James as I write at this desk each night. Perhaps it would be wise to retire early. I desperately require the additional sleep. May 31st, 1679. I am fortunate for taking the extra rest. Much has developed during the course of this day. We have new arrivals from the settlement who were able to tell us of events since
Look,
Rebecca's
listen,
departure.
feel, check!
After discovering her missing, Frederick ordered everyone indoors while he and two men scoured the
Just a
forest.
scratch.
It is unknown if they truly searched, for upon their return they reported discovering Mrs. Hughes' body,
Clemency?
or more
Never heard of
accurately,
it.
what remained of it.
This
He spun a tale that strongly
It's but
implied
efficient.
any others who dare leave would likely meet the same fate. I do not consider myself a man of violence, but I find myself plotting various ways of preventing Mr. Barnes from reaching Jamestown.
Rules are
If he
made to be
survives a
broken.
few more nights, rest assured, my dear future reader, he will crawl on his knees before us, pleading for shelter. But for now, I must bide my time and relay what horrors next plague the settlement. The farmer moved his family into the old Brown residence, and it seems they fell victim to the same strange creature as the previous tenants. Once again, the elders refuse to elaborate of their knowledge of this monster, but they are quick to correct any who refer to it as a demon. George Miller and his wife, Bethany, moved into the farmhouse with their 5 children immediately upon arrival. They added additional rooms, and, with help from neighbors, put much work into preparing the land for new crops. In that time, nothing thought to be unnatural occurred until the last night. After supper, as Bethany and her 3 daughters sat knitting, the boys prepared an evening fire. It was the eldest son, Jack, who was tasked with retrieving extra wood. When he did not return, they assumed he found need to chop more. When he still did not return, George sent his other son, Jonathan, to check the cause for delay. The younger lad was gone mere seconds before he burst through the door, white as a sheet and breathing heavily. He spoke in a rush, reporting Jack to be calling for help from the forest. Mr. Miller leapt from his chair, retrieved 2 rifles, and thrusting one into Jonathan's hands, they ran outside. Stopping to light the torches, George called to his other son, but did not receive answer. Bethany stood at the door with her daughters, watching nervously as her husband stalked the tree line, searching for signs to indicate Jack's passage. Finally, they heard footsteps to their right. Instructing Jonathan to hold position, Mr. Miller cautiously made his way through the brush. Moments later, the snap of a twig inches to his left made George drop his torch, and the fire extinguished with a loud hiss. In the same instant, he discharged his weapon, and the sound of his retreating footsteps could be heard. Jonathan called to his father, but before he could do more, the burly man emerged from the tree line. Without pause, Mr. Miller grabbed his remaining son and dragged him along in his desperate flight. Once all were inside, George barred the door, ignoring his family's frightened questions. He proceeded to latch the shutters while shouting for the others to follow suit. When no more could be done to secure their position, he reached for his pipe with trembling hands. After dropping it for the 3rd time, he broke down into tears. Unable to cope with another moment's wait, Bethany slapped her husband's face. When the man was finally able to communicate, his family crumpled at the news of Jack's death. In the forest, when the twig snapped, George was able to take in one horrendous sight before the torch extinguished. He saw a creature so tall, its head was lost in the darkness above. Its body was that of a man, but covered in a thick, deer-like hide. It had 2 arms and legs as humans, but the right arms were so long its fingertips brushed the ground. At such a description, I am not sorry to lack its facial features. What stuck clear in the grieving father's mind was the image of his son's severed head. The creature held it aloft as if offering Mr. Miller a gift. The family hugged as they cried, but wails of grief quickly evolved to screams of terror as loud, heavy footsteps were heard outside. All sounds in the home ceased as the steps seemed to pace across the porch. Bethany held her daughters close as George stood, motioning for Jonathan to follow. Careful to make no noise, they steadied their rifles, training them on the door. When the steps next passed, they halted at the entrance. Loud bangs shook the door, bending it further inward with each strike. Hearts pounding, the terrified family waited with breaths held, expecting the wood to splinter any second. After several minutes of this, a distorted, childlike voice of indistinguishable gender said, "Help, Dad," before retreating steps could finally be heard leaving the premises. After 2 silent hours, Bethany put the girls to bed. She and George remained on guard, and Jonathan dozed near the fire. No one stirred as the creature crept alongside their home, and they were not sure if they truly heard the short but sharp crack of a shutter torn from its hinges. But chaos ensued when the loud shattering of glass and shrill screams pierced the night. The screaming continued as all rushed to the girls, weapons at the ready. 2 children sat huddled in a corner, pointing to the broken window. Bethany was first to notice Elizabeth's absence. She forced her way past George, screaming for her youngest child. Glass forgotten, Mrs. Miller knelt, peering under the bed, but nothing was there. Bloody streaks trailed across the floor as she continued her desperate search. When she reached the corner where her remaining daughters cowered, she shook them violently, demanding answers. The eldest, Laura, barely spoke above a whisper when she reported a giant deer man reached through the window and carried her sister away. George, forced to drop the rifle, restrained his wife when she continued shaking the frightened child. He released her moments later when Bethany ceased struggling, but she knocked him to the ground at first opportunity. Taking the gun on her way out, Mrs. Miller ran from the home, screaming for her lost children. Her husband gave chase, pleading for her to return, but stopped short at the door, too frightened to continue. He thought it was so the children would not be orphans, but now he is unsure if that was his true motive. After a sleepless night, he and his starving children fled at dawn with all they could carry. They did not tell anyone of their departure, knowing they would not be allowed to leave, regardless the reason. I am glad those children have an intelligent father, for there is no doubt they would be orphans, or worse, as he pursued his wife.
Clemency?
Even more certain
Never
of
heard
the
of it.
actions Mr. Barnes would have employed at the discovery of his intentions. Oh, goodness, the time. It seems I've fallen effortlessly into my old habits. Perhaps when these endeavors are finished, I will finally come around to writing that poem for my beautiful wife.
Time to twirl! What are you looking
That was
at?
a mighty hectic 3
Maybe you
days.
can keep
Next
it
is the
down.
part where James finally comes home.
Let's go.
So this is the last good part for a break if you'd like to stretch your legs a bit.
Take this!
Well, that sounds mighty fine.
Time to
Some good
twirl.
old-fashioned popcorn would be lovely. It's been a while since I smelled that buttery goodness. Trish, could you be a deer and fetch a pot?
Good bully! Looks like
Sound of them
somebody needs a
kernels
doctor.
popping sure does take me back. Tell you what I'd like to try, popcorn balls. We was watching a movie a few
I
months
have no
back where
interest
some
in
folks
doing-
made them. They looked like sweet, gooey balls of pure delight.
You must be honored to meet
Oh yes,
me.
dear, you're right. Sorry, friend. Riled again. Anyway, I guess we should get back to our story. Let's focus on that
Let me
instead
tend
of
to
that
your
howling
wounds.
outside. Nothing to worry about. Probably just the wind. Most surely.
Clemency? The
And
time
just
is now.
relax and eat your snack. I got this. June 1st, 1679. My brother has returned, and they lost only 2 men on the journey. Despite all the hardships we endured, I am jubilant this night. James as well, and now we have new information that will certainly prove vital. The could hardly believe my eyes
Step
at the sight of
aside.
his thin,
I have
bearded
no
face.
interest in stoking.
Do you
There was a
know who
fine
I am?
celebration with a feast I
a
will still
diamond
feel the
this
weight
big?
of come morning.
Oh,
We received
you.
no new settlers this day, and I am almost grateful, for I have much to write. It is almost a shame
Clemency?
to dampen such
Never
high
heard of it.
spirits with talk of the wicked things James learned in the great mountains.
The truth
But
of
it
life
is a
and
task
death,
that should not be
revealed in an
delayed.
instant.
My
His
brother,
sanctuary
ever the wise man,
is but a
kept a
vision.
journal documenting his experiences each night. He claimed it was to free himself from my hassling upon his return, but I know he jests. He understood the importance of this journey and would not undertake even the smallest task without his very best efforts. I must return his journal when I am finished, but I will transcribe his conversation with the mountain's elders here. It is best if more than one copy of the knowledge exists. Copied from the journal of James Cook. I thought the hardest parts of our arduous journey behind us when we reached the Great Mountain.
Looks like somebody needs a
The last
doctor.
several months
Rules
spent
are
proving
made to be
ourselves
broken.
these strange people have been more difficult by far. Thankfully, our patience and efforts have finally been rewarded this day. They revealed to us a passage leading deep into the
Time to
mountains
show
and
you.
showed us their true village. When their ancestors first came to these parts centuries ago, they were persuaded by a superior
Don't worry
tribe.
about me.
Crawling in the brush, desperate to lose their enemies, they stumbled upon a small opening in the mountain. Surprised to find a tunnel which opened into a large cavern, they quickly hid their people inside. After the years passed, they dug new pathways to expand their home.
Step
It was
aside.
there,
I have
deep in
no
the heart
interest
of
in
the mountain,
stoking.
the elders gave us the information we sought.
What are you looking at?
They sat in a
Maybe
round
you can
cave
keep
with
it
only one
down?
entrance. Torches
Let's
lined
make
the
it
walls,
quick.
and a dozen people sat solemnly. When I attempted to
Looks
relay
like
the
somebody
information
needs
given by the shaman Kawani, they surprised me further by already knowing his words. The frail woman who spoke sat in the center
Clemency?
of the elder's circle,
Never heard of it.
staring
You know who I
into
am.
space.
Ever see a
Noticing her
diamond
strange
this big?
white eyes, I realized she was
Oh,
blind.
yours.
I only note the fact due to the number of times she claimed to
Too
see
late to
Kawani
repent.
when they spoke. The shaman was a descendant of
The
their
time is
tribe,
now.
and therefore able to commune with
You
them
must
in
be
death.
honored to meet me.
Even with my experience in the unnatural, I found this concept difficult to accept. Yet I must believe
The
it
truth
true,
of life
for
and death,
there is no other way
revealed
she
in
could
this
possess such
sanctuary.
knowledge.
It's but a
I know
vision.
it will trouble my brother to learn that we cannot express the demon's name via written word. We are only able to commune it verbally, and even then, only when absolutely necessary. The reason is still difficult to comprehend.
Gotta get those
I will do my
vitamins.
best to explain a concept of which I understand
Step
little.
aside. I have
Even so, I fear it will not do justice to the long, elegantly delivered account I received. Normally, when we die, our souls pass on to the spirit world to be at peace.
Maybe you can keep it
There are
down.
exceptions. Ghosts are the souls who, for a variety of reasons, cannot pass on to the spirit world at all. Each individual circumstance is unique, making it impossible to fully document each possibility. But I'm fairly certain Alexander already has information regarding this topic. When a truly vile, evil person dies, their soul can never be at peace. Instead, it is pulled to a different realm of the spirit world, one where they remain in a state of pain and terror, always aware of their suffering.
Look, listen,
It is
feel,
in this
check.
realm demons are born. They are physical creatures formed as a byproduct of hate and chaos. They devour the tormented
Time to
soul,
twirl.
becoming more powerful with each consumption. They can never be destroyed, only
What are
banished
you looking
back
at?
from whence they came.
Rules are
Long
made to be
ago, the
broken.
mortal performed a ritual to summon the demon to the cursed woods. Man, by nature, is fallible in his greedy desire for wealth and power. Even those with good intentions often fall prey to the belief they hold some unique quality that entitles him to stand above his fellows. It is exactly that trait upon which the beast will prey. Demons are capable of influencing dreams of the weak-minded, employing masterful manipulations to achieve their goals. They promise to fulfill their victims' greatest desires,
Do
yet
you know who I
somehow
am?
able to maintain the illusion of
Ever see a
honesty.
diamond this
I
big?
do not understand how one can think such a creature would honor an agreement. The easiest way to banish the entity requires to summon it. Therefore, it will dispose of that person immediately. Without aid from the one who brought the demon forth, we must use an alternative method. I I was gifted with a beautifully carved bow and 3 special arrows. The runes carved into the shafts remind me of the ceremonial dagger our father passed down to Timothy. The elders confirmed either would harm the
Let me
demon,
tend to
but
your
the
wounds.
bow allows for attacking from a distance. The creature can only be banished
Clemency?
in its true form.
Never heard of
If
it.
it has taken possession of a human, it will be forced from its shell, but not injured.
The
Once it is
truth of
truly
life and
wounded,
death
the weapon must
revealed
not be
in
removed.
this
A great
sanctuary
effort should be made
is
to
but a
avoid
vision.
physical contact with the demon. Even in that state, it should then be burned to ashes, which will be scattered into a body of salt water, never fresh. I think what frightens me most is knowing the demon does in fact continue to grow stronger with each victim it takes. I pray we can be rid of it before a 5th settlement comes to pass. It is unfortunate I cannot write its name down, for it is a difficult word. Our language does not possess all the sounds necessary to convey it correctly, but the elders say it is still too risky. There are few things more powerful than a true name, especially when written. Ink does not fade away as the sound of a voice. It remains, as would the power it infused within the demon. I must make sure to stress this point to my well-meaning brother, that he cannot, for any reason, commit the name to paper. I should not even speak it more than once when I return. My back screams in protest at the thought of the journey home. My desire to travel has been filled. I hope to never leave Jamestown again. What I have seen and learned here was worth the effort, but I miss my family dearly. I pity whoever will be charged with use of this fine bow. I greatly desire to keep it, but the price of ownership is far too high. I envy James's experience with the elders. I yearn to see their mountains and caves, but I know I could not endure years away from Trish and the children. The demon's name is indeed difficult, but even if I were allowed to write it, I do not know how I would spell such strange sounds. My hand throbs from exertion, and I must wake with the sun. With this new information, it would be a monstrous act to abandon the victims at Dirge Lake. When the demon is gone, perhaps it will finally make a good place to settle. I would be remiss to behave as if this would be an easy undertaking, but I feel as if we have come too far to fail. If I do not return tomorrow, dear family, know I cherished you more than life, and I do this to secure your futures. May our children never experience the horrors of the cursed woods. June 2nd, 1679. In all my life, I have never experienced such horror as what I saw this day. We arrived at Dirge Lake, but there was not a soul in sight. We felt a dark presence watching as we knocked on several doors and peeked through windows. Finally, when no one came to greet us, we entered the church. The stench was overwhelming. It penetrated anything we used in an attempt to cover our faces. There was no escaping the smell of death. Mutilated bodies reposed all around us. 2 young girls sat in the front row, hands severed at the wrist, but clasped together in their laps. Behind them, a man and woman sat together, their heads placed on the wrong bodies. Everywhere we looked was more of the same. After confirming no survivors remained, we wished to leave quickly. The floor was slick with blood, and in my hurry, I fell to my knees. After seeing my hand rested on someone's intestine, I proceeded to lose my breakfast. We knew we were too late. They were all dead, but we had to try anyway. When we had a moment to collect ourselves, we searched every home for survivors, but only found more gruesome murders. The things done to the poor children were horrendous, but knowing we could do no more for the dead, we discussed the larger issue at hand. Most wished to return home, reasoning that there was no point facing the demon if none were left to save, but I cannot be satisfied until I saw the corpse of Frederick Barnes. The 2 men who were always with him were found dead in the church. Their, members removed and inserted into their mouths, but I needed to know their boss was also gone. I do not mind admitting that what little courage I possessed fled from me at the grotesque sights we beheld. And yes, I was willing to abandon plans of fighting the demon for as long as possible. But I would never sleep soundly again without knowing Mr. Barnes was deceased. We found him outside, dead but animated as the demon's new husk, watching us from the tree line. When we saw him, he emerged with the most hauntingly sinister smile I've ever seen. He told us to get off his land, still pretending to be Frederick, but we stood our ground. We tried to position ourselves to obscure the demon's view of Timothy, but he saw my brother ready an arrow and understood our intentions. He moved with inhuman speed, but somehow Michael Stephenson shielded Tim, buying valuable time. We rushed to aid Michael, but his skull was crushed instantly. As the demon turned to locate my brother once again, Henry Davenport leapt onto his back, securing the last moment we needed. Unfortunately, it came at great cost, for the creature reached its arms back in a disturbingly unnatural way to break our friend's neck effortlessly. Suddenly, an arrow plunged deep into Frederick's chest, knocking him to the ground. We descended upon him, watching as black ooze gushed from the wound. The creature laughed maniacally until only a hollow shell remained. When the last drop of the tar-like substance was soaked
I have
into
no
the ground
interest in
or
stoking
evaporated,
conflict.
I'm not sure which. We wasted no time in leaving. I have had enough adventure in my life. I hope no one enters those
You
cursed
must
woods
be
again.
honored to meet
but
me.
if they do, may it be long after I am gone. Trish made me promise I would not cross the river again, and I eagerly agreed.
Let's make it
If it were
quick.
not out of concern for my brother, I would not have put her
Time
through
to
the
show
worry
you.
of going today. The only thing I want now is to sleep.
What's in your prescription?
Don't worry about me.
Let's go.
Good grief, look at the time. The sun has been up for hours. See, this is what happens when you shut the world. I don't even remember
You
hearing
don't
the
look so
storm stop.
good.
Uh-oh.
Well, listen, feel kick.
Oh, thank goodness. We thought we might be snowed in, but you can crawl over that
Clemency?
little mountain.
Never
no
heard
problem.
of it.
I was worried we'd have to shoot you out of the chimney for a second. One day, you should remind me to read
What are
James's
you
journal.
looking at?
That tribe in the mountains accidentally opened a cavern that still had something ancient living in it.
Time to twirl.
And all sorts of shenanigans ensued. It sounded like quite a time. I'm starting to think you're never going to be satisfied. No matter how much I read, you want to hear more. Well, tough because we've barely scratched the surface. If you want to know more, we'll pick up with the sixth settlement later. But we have to skip the rest of my journals to do that. Huh? What makes you think I
Do you
died?
know who I am?
Nah, the plague
Ever
got
seen a
us.
diamond
But
this
I
big?
couldn't just leave my journals behind, could I?
Yours.
Goodness, no. I didn't bring them here. No,
Step aside.
we can't get into
I
all
have
that.
no interest in
You've
stoking
stayed too
Rules
long.
are
I
made to
think.
be broken.
That part of the story isn't even interesting. Hell, I'm not sure if it qualifies as anecdotal. Just set that brain of yours back to pondering the new
You don't
stuff
say
you
you're
did.
welcome.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Time to
I
twirl.
hope to see you again, Reese.
Maybe you can keep it down.
Let's make it quick.
Hello. Looks like
Let me
these
tend to your
flurries will be
wounds.
another blizzard soon. Come on, let's get you to the cabin before you
The
freeze
truth
over.
of life and death,
When this storm
revealed
blew
in an
in,
instant.
I knew you must be on
This
the way.
sanctuary
We're thrilled to
is
have you
but
back
a
with
vision.
us so close to Christmas.
Looks like
No
somebody needs
trouble
a
at all.
doctor.
The neighbors have been restless the last couple of days. I figured I ought to play it safe. I grabbed an umbrella and hit the trail. I'm glad you made good time. Thanks to those thunderheads. It's gonna
Clemency?
be full dark out here soon.
Never heard of it. The time is now.
Alright, we're home, family. Here you go. Ethan, good job with the fire. You earned yourself first use of our newfangled portable battery.
Do you know who I
Dawn
am?
of a new day with this
Ever seen a
long-lasting
diamond
puppy.
this big?
Thanks again, friend.
All
You discovered
yours.
something that actually motivates the boy. We never thought we'd see the day. Here's the one you left with us last time. So, is the person who invented these things super famous? How can you not even know their name?
Let me tend to your wounds.
Alright, Trish is right. You better get started. I can't
Much
keep talking
better.
from
Step
Sunday.
aside. I have
Get
no
yourself
interest in
settled while
stoking
I set the
conflict.
scene. If you want to hear the daily dribbles of Jamestown life, we can go back when we finish the good stuff. For now, I suspect you prefer to hear the juicy bits. Now, what can I say? Stories on my seventh sense? Besides, it's adorable how you breathers are fascinated by death.
Looks like
You
somebody
got all
needs
the
a
time in the
doctor.
world to be dead later. Go out there and live. Visit a library. Get hot water from the faucet. Buy food for
It's too
weeks at a
late to
time.
repent.
Possibilities are endless. Oh, I'm excited again. Sorry. Anyway, we're skipping all the way to 1752 tonight. Such a long time passed, the descendants stopped believing in the boogeyman. With each generation, the population increased and more land was needed. Eventually, the stories came to be known as tales
Rules are made to be
of dead
broken.
children playing near the river. Yep, you guessed it. Our genius legacy decided to expand Dirge Lake.
Let me tend
They
to your
built a bridge and
wounds.
everything. No, the bridge was never destroyed.
Gotta get those
The one there
vitamins.
today was built in the early
Much better.
1900s by the government. The locals fought it every step of the way, but you know how it is with infrastructure. Ethan, if you don't want to
Clemency?
hear it, put on your
Never
headphones.
heard of it. The time is
Sorry,
now.
he's just touchy because he was one of
The truth of life and death,
To be
revealed
fair,
in
it
this
wasn't his fault.
sanctuary.
His
It's
father
but
was
a vision.
The boy is descended from Jan, but great nephew was a mouthful. He was only 18
Maybe
when
you
that
can
mess
keep
happened.
it down.
He didn't know anything. It's harder to accept this lifestyle at that point. Well, it's kind of you to be concerned, but don't worry. Look, he's already lost in Spider-Man. No, the boy is far too lazy to write. You'll be reading my own great-grandson journal.
Break.
Nicky was a chip off the old block. That boy done me right, crap.
Step aside.
One
I have no
Time to
interest
show
in
you.
conflict.
He's only 21 himself. Hey, always likely not
What's
to make
in
that
your
loud. The
prescription?
weird part is,
Much better.
me and Trish had a front row
Clemency?
seat for the whole
Never
ride.
heard of it.
And believe me, we tried our best to stop them.
Do you know who I
There's
am?
so much we could do. Sometimes
Ever see a diamond
we
this
gotta
big?
learn the hard way.
It's
We
all
don't just die and
yours.
pop up the next second as we are now. Goodness no.
Time
It
to
took almost 20
twirl.
years to just
It's
post
too
it.
late to repent.
I don't think anyone could hear us for nearly a century. Even then, it was barely above a whisper. Appear in human form? Substance? Converse for extended periods? You're talking more than 200 years for this swagger. Well, if we hadn't gotten mixed up with the demon and its blood sacrifices, sure.
You don't look so
Probably could
good.
have sped things up a bit, but being dead is no reason to let it pick it up. Maybe you're right. I think laziness does run in the family. We had the hang of things well enough to help with you, but even now,
You must be
don't go
honored to
near
meet
the demon's nest. We're drifting to the mumbos and jumbos again, but all that will come out in the story
Step aside.
Natural Life.
I have no interest
I'll
in
fill
stoking
in some missing
conflict.
blanks as we go, but Nicholas did a fine job, especially for a young age. Now, I think so much time passed that it would take a minute for things to kick off. But nope.
The truth of life
They were
and
being
death,
watched
revealed in an
from the first tree
instant.
down to the last
This
person out.
sanctuary is but a vision.
Time to twirl.
April 12th,
Do you know who
1752.
I am?
After nearly a
Ever see a
year,
diamond
we are
this
finally
big?
moved to our new home.
It's all
I cannot help but
yours.
laugh at how this space was avoided for silly superstition.
What are
Though
you
I
looking
do
at?
wonder if the water was once genuinely clear, it would be fascinating to discover the true cause of such a transformation. Regardless, it is teeming with fish. You can hear them splashing about at all hours. As for the reports of the land's deterioration, it is honestly not so bad. The soil is more suitable to farming across the river, but that hardly means it is uninhabitable.
The time is now.
A little extra scenery. We are surrounded by a forest of large, twisted trees whose branches reach out in strange curvatures, bending at odd angles.
Let
I
me
have never
tend to
seen
your
their
wounds.
like.
Rules are made to be
Gray moss
broken.
hangs down in sheets, accenting the greenery in a somehow beautiful, gloomy way. I cannot express how wonderful it feels to sit in my own home, writing my own memoirs. Silence
Gotta get
is a
those
glorious
vitamins.
thing that I have rarely experienced in such eternity. When I am ready to start a family, I must add additional rooms to retain a private space. Hopefully, by that time, these strange notions will cease. I believe the old stories have affected me in a small way. The moment I began this entry, an odd sensation overcame me. It is
Let's
as if
go.
someone stands looking over my shoulder. I expected the feeling to fade, but it grows worse.
Looks like
There's a
somebody
tickle at
needs
the
a
back of my
doctor.
neck and a chill down my spine. At least
Clemency?
I have the comfort of knowing
Never
I'm
heard of
not
it.
alone in my paranoia.
Time to
Ethan
show
thought he
you.
heard a man call from the forest, and my sister claimed to see a disfigured
What's
face
in
in the
your
window.
prescription?
Father would
Don't
enjoy a
worry
hearty
about
laugh
me.
if he read these words, but it is worth noting how easily the power of suggestion can manipulate
The
one's
time is
senses.
now.
I am sure others follow our example, but keep the matter private. If dangerous wildlife is nearby, it will not take
What are
long
you
to
looking
dispatch.
at?
The farmhouse is no longer
Do you
secluded
know
from
who I
neighbors.
am?
In case of attack,
Ever see a
help
diamond
is not
this
far
big?
away, but I do not believe such an event will truly take place. Much time was spent in the area during preparations, and nothing was seen to justify such
The
concern.
truth of life and death,
Ah, damn.
revealed in an instant.
One careless slip, and now
This
there's a stretch
century
across the page.
It's but a vision.
Alas, that is enough foolishness for one night. I am eager to retire.
You must be honored to
Tomorrow
meet
will
me.
be a long, hard day. The Hamptons' crop restorations begin at sunrise.
Let's make it
I
quick.
volunteered because farming is vital to the community, and not at all for the
Let me
reason of
tend
being
to
near
your
Kenneth's
wounds.
lovely
Not
daughter.
listen, feel
Although,
kick.
if I were ready to
Step
begin
aside.
courting,
I have
she would
no
make
interest
me a
in
lucky
stoking
man
conflict.
indeed.
What are you
April
looking
13th,
at?
1752. It was a mistake to indulge such nonsense last night. These wild ideas of monsters and demons have
Take
taken
this.
root in my brain,
Looks
and now
like
they
somebody
blossom
needs a
into pure
doctor.
madness. I'll not have it. There are no such things as ghosts or spirits.
Clemency?
Do you hear the
Never heard of
insanity
it.
in those words? One must take stock and look at the situation as a whole, outside one's single, small-minded existence. Which is more likely, that a silly wives' tale rings true, or that, being aware of such tales, my mind warps
You must be
situations
honored
to
to
fit
meet
the
me.
narrative? Any who chooses the former clearly
go.
has no respect for science. We are no longer in the Dark Ages.
Step
One
aside.
must
I
adapt
have
to the
no
modern
interest in
world,
Rules are made to be
leave them
broken.
behind. I digress. I should not become flustered over such trivial mishaps. If nothing else, these anecdotes may amuse my grandchildren someday. I must admit, from the comfort of home, the situation does seem humorous. Even the boys at the lake had a scare when placing the fish traps, but their incident is easily explained. In the process of stealing supper, alligators destroyed their nests. My experience was more confounding. Alice fetched us from the field when lunch was ready. She and her mother prepared enough food to feed the volunteers, and tables were set outside to accommodate our large number. While preparing my plate, I heard Mrs. Hampton calling for her youngest, Florence. The child was assumed to be in her room, and, as a gentleman, I offered my assistance. After ascending the stairs, I turned right and followed the long hallway to the open door on the left. Florence's room was brightly decorated with flowers, and the child stood at her window, seeming not to notice my presence. She turned when I spoke and came a few steps closer. When I relayed her mother's message, she inched forward a little more. Thinking it was a game, I extended my arm, asking if I might escort her as a proper lady, but she did not find the offer charming as envisioned. No matter what I tried, there was no further reaction. She merely stood there, expressionless. My stomach begged for the delicious smells wafting through the open window. Losing patience in my hunger, I resigned to the knowledge she would soon grow bored and follow. Upon returning, I informed Alice of my less than successful efforts, but she appeared confused and gestured toward the stables. I nearly choked when I saw Florence riding atop her father's shoulders. I believe, if nothing else, my fellows would describe me as a sane, reasonable man, one who was not easily shaken or deceived. Yet, I cannot explain how this happened. No matter how I replay the scene, I do not understand where I am mistaken. You must picture it precisely as I state, for I wish others to appreciate the magnitude of this riddle. From leaving the child's room to seeing her at the stables, few minutes passed. We dined in clear view of the home. Never was it out of sight. The barn was at my back, with 40 yards of open field between structures. I would have considered it an impossible task to move from one to the other without my seeing, yet it happened. I am simply baffled, even more that the child played her part so well. That alone is a worthy feat, but the sheer logistics behind getting her to the stables are on another level entirely. Florence did not act alone. The plotting was Kenneth's doing, of that I'm sure. It is not that I am a poor sport. The illusion was artfully done and masterfully executed. There is no denying that. I simply wish to know how, but they will not reveal their methods. In fact, they will not admit to trickery at all. They insist I saw a different child. The notion is absurd. Even if multiple 10-year-olds were roaming about, one could hardly mistake her golden curls and blue eyes. Damn if this is not my own doing for showing interest in the details. Had I remained aloof, their bragging would be endless. Now it is more fun to leave me in ignorance. Perhaps sleep will bring clarity. It is a theory worth testing. Oh, and I thought I was long-winded. I forgot how philosophical that kid used to be. Anyway, no matter. I just wanted to make a quick notation for the sake of accuracy. Do you know what a doppelganger is? Well, I have a feeling. There's quite a few misconceptions about them, but just keep in mind, they are not in any way a ghost. They are two completely different breeds. And think of them as low-level demons. They used to be human, but when passing to the other side, they landed in the unpleasant place. On rare occasions, one finds its way home, but needs a new identity to be free. See, Trish gives one little tidbit, and now it's 20 questions. Settle down, friend. We got all night. April 14th, 1752. It was another day of strange occurrences. If tomorrow is not better, we may have to reevaluate our position. While I do not relish the notion, I must admit the necessity. Ken Hampton may be a crafty devil, but I cannot believe he would force the stresses of this night upon his family by choice. Honestly, I no longer know what to believe. At dusk, all others departed, but I dallied in the stables. Florence's soft voice startled me from thought as she extended her family's invitation to supper. I accepted gratefully, if not suspiciously, but is that surprising after the ruckus of last night? It was not likely I would fall for the same trick twice. I kept the child in sight, watching for any sign of co-conspirators. As we left the barn, someone hiding in the trees shouted a gargled cry for help, but unwilling to traipse through the forest, I quickened our pace. While impressed with Florence's feigned fright, I am almost certain it was Donald's voice. Even if slurred speech concealed his identity, the girl's brother was supposedly on a hunting venture and not expected to return for several days. A likely story indeed. If that were not enough, Mrs. Hampton shrieked an ear-splitting scream at the sight of us. She was descending the steps with Mr. Hampton close at heel when we entered through the foyer. Penelope's cries shook me, sowing doubts in my previous perceptions. Without speaking, the couple rushed upstairs. When they returned, I could see the loss of color from their pale faces. I cannot conceive how one fakes such an emotional response. Perhaps what began in jest... Blast! How have I ruined yet another page? The damn pen has a mind of its own. No more of this. I have no opinion on the matters. I simply state the facts as they occurred. Let others determine what lies in truth. Now, begone whatever foul force foils my hard work. The Hamptons claimed to see Florence in her room only seconds before, but they could not argue with the sight of her before their eyes. The lost, confused looks they wore were admittedly familiar, but it is a hard concept to accept. At Kenneth's suggestion, we all sat to dine, recounting each event in precise detail. Mr. Hampton explained they were dressing for supper when Florence appeared in the doorway. She reported my acceptance of the evening invitation, and Penelope instructed her daughter to likewise prepare. She watched as the child ran into her own room.
Keep at it.
When the parents passed her door moments later, the girl was brushing her hair. Not wishing her to dally, they paused in the hall. They insist they did not continue down the stairwell until Florence trailed behind. Then, seconds later, they saw her in my own company.
must be honored to meet me. Do you know who I am? Ever see a diamond this big? Oh, it's all yours. What are you looking at?
The truth of life and death, revealed in an instant. This sanctuary is but a vision.
Time to twirl. Maybe you can keep it down. Time to twirl. I told you they were sick. Done. It took some effort, but we finally cracked these mechanisms.
We're one step closer to Bronya. Let's move!
Are these echoes too?
Yes. The fragmentum here seems to have made a special connection with Cocolia. It's repeatedly generating forms in her image.
Whoa, check this place out. Tables and sentry posts? There must have been Silvermane guards stationed here once.
If there were, they left a long time ago. There might be valuable information here. Shame we don't have time to look for it.
Looks like another completely new monster.
Considering where we are, it would be surprising if we didn't run into strange enemies here.
I don't care how strange it is. It's blocking our way. Let's get it!
Pray.
Ha!
The redemption.
Move carefully.
Time to twirl! You must be honored to meet me.
Take this!
Time to twirl!
For your sins. Never forgive.
You bully! What are you looking at? Maybe you can keep it down? Time to show you. What's in your prescription? How appropriate.
For your sins.
Clemency? Never heard of it.
Time to twirl!
The truth of life and death, revealed in this sanctuary, is but a vision.
You must be honored to meet me.
Rules are made to be broken.
It's gonna hurt.
I've lost my way.
This enemy is completely different. If I didn't know it was a product of the Fragmentum, I'd think we were fighting a human.
Unlike those random low-level Fragmentum creations, this one seems to have a mind of its own. It seems to be able to use complex tactics.
Look, Bronya and Cocolia's echoes. They must have come through here. That means we must be really close, right?
I sense that we're very near to the northern snow plains.
Do you know who I am? Ever see a diamond this big? Oh, it's all yours! Time to twirl!
Step aside. I have no interest in stoking conflict.
Time to twirl! What are you looking at?
Reach the end of the story in your own way.
It's that shadow of hers again. But Bronya's isn't with her this time.
It's only a Fragmentum illusion. Let's get a closer look. It feels like this echo is different from the others before.
Intruders.
Did she just speak?
You cannot approach.
Not good. March, out the way!
The Stellaron. Intruders. You go nowhere.
Are you sure this isn't the real her?
Move carefully. It may look like her, but the Fragmentum can only create forgeries. Bring her down!
Maybe you can keep it down? Do you know who I am? Ever see a diamond this big? Oh, it's all yours!
You are doomed to fail!
Scratch.
The truth of life and death, revealed in an instant. This sanctuary is but a vision.
Time to twirl!
Let's make it quick.
Take this!
Time to twirl!
Rules are made to be broken.
Gotta get those vitamins!
Much better.
Freeze to death! Witness the avalanche!
Step aside. I have no interest in stoking. The time is now.
You must be honored to meet me. Let me tend to your wounds.
Sinners, ready yourself for the judgment of eternal winter!
I won't break.
Clemency? Never heard of it.
Time to show you. What's in your prescription? Do you know who I am? Ever see a diamond this big? It's all yours.
The truth of life and death, revealed in an instant. This sanctuary is but a vision.
Time to twirl. Look, listen, feel, kick.
Step aside. I have no interest in stoking conflict.
It's gonna hurt.
Tremble before my power!
Time to twirl.
Rules are made to be broken.
Clemency? Never heard of it.
A world devoured by ice! The eternal freeze will bury you!
Do you know who I am? Ever see a diamond this big? It's all yours. It's gonna hurt.
Sinners, ready yourself for the judgment of eternal winter!
I won't break.
Scratch.
show you. What's in your prescription?
Don't worry about me. Step aside. I have no interest in stoking conflict.
Take this!
The truth of life and death, revealed in an instant. This sanctuary is but a vision.
Gotta get those vitamins.
Much better.
What are you looking at? You bully!
The world that they promised.
She disappeared.
Those stairs. It's the only way forward.
Wherever they lead, it must be the end of the journey.
I don't want to get to the end so soon. I want my journey to go on forever.
This means that Bronya is up ahead, and so is the fate of the overworld and the underworld. It's all in our hands. Strange. I thought I'd feel nervous or afraid, but I don't. The only feeling I have is that none of this seems real.
To be honest, you never really get used to them. We always used to rely on Himeko and Mr. Yang.
The Express has traveled world after world. We are merely passing travelers, witnesses to part of a grander story. We invariably avoid getting drawn into turbulence that can decide the fate of a world. But there are always times when we have no choice but to act.
Or to put it another way, this is one heck of a first trailblazing expedition. You hit the jackpot.
I was about to bore you all with my gloomy reflections, but on second thought, not today. Adventuring with you guys by my side has made me feel like no obstacle is too big.
Right on. But you can say whatever you like. A good adventure shouldn't be full of rules and regulations. Helping those in need, befriending those worth counting on, and saving the world a few times along the way.
Noise. It's freezing here. The blizzard's so fierce.
The power from the Trailblaze path isn't enough to stop the cold.
It means that we're getting closer to the Stellaron, and the heart of the Eternal Freeze.
Did the architects build this?
Very different from the uniform style of the buildings we saw in the city.
Does it look like the palm of a huge hand to you? If Cocolia threatens us by taking Bronya hostage...
We have to save her. The underworld... No. The entire planet relies on her.
No.
Do not resist, Bronya. Accept the common will.
No! I don't want this.
Look upon their promised future, Bronya. A world without poverty, without cold, without suffering. A world where people no longer have to pray like prisoners for survival. A world that we can guard for all eternity. 700 years ago, we tried and fought unceasingly, believing that the radiance of human nature could shepherd us towards rejuvenation. And to what end? A crushing defeat. Why, when faced with irrefutable strength, is our first thought always to resist? To cover our ears instead of hearing the call? It is the conceit and cowardice entrenched in the depths of human nature, so difficult to efface. Cast them aside. Break free of the chains that bind you. The Stellaron will lead humanity to evolve, and they will.
Your brainwashing ends here, you witch!
Zila?
You came. I thought the blizzards had entombed you.
You wish! We're not going down before you do! Bronya! I don't know what happened between you and them. Even if you explained it to me, I probably wouldn't understand all the crazy details. But there are two things I do know. One, these guys have come through hell to get here, to seal this Stellaron thing. And two, do you remember what I said? If anything happened to you, I'd save you. Do you understand? Even if the damage is done, even if you've completely forgotten our promise, then I'm just gonna have to knock you out and bring you back myself.
Zila. All of you.
Finished? I think I've given you long enough to bid farewell. It's time I told you my other reason for bringing you here, Brown. I want to witness your choice. I have told you all the truths there are to tell. The deal with the Stellaron, the wish I made to it. There are no more secrets between us. Many years ago, the voice of the Stellaron sounded in my ears for the first time. I was no different from the previous generations of Guardians. I withdrew, refused to hear. I was as you are now, bitterly defending the architect's so-called preservation. My conviction was once steadfast, unparalleled. Until a sudden change arrived and threw everything into chaos. Another choice appeared before me. A subversion of the old order, and the welcoming of a new world. And compared to the illusory, ever more distant preservation, this was so tangible. I have agonized, long agonized over how to convey all this to you. Inevitably, the promised tomorrow will transpire. But if you were not there beside me to watch over that new world, then I would descend into torment. Bronya. Enduring torment. Perhaps I should be thanking you, outsiders. The pressure you have imposed has at long last compelled me to confront my final weakness. Bronya, throughout your life, I have never forced you to submit to my will. You have always, will always have a choice. As then, so now. Choose, my daughter.
Madame Cocolia, I am grateful to you for raising me and for allowing me the privilege of choice. But I am sorry, Mother. On this, our final occasion, I cannot stand with you. You say that conceit and cowardice lie in the depths of human nature. Perhaps you're right. Desperation sheds light on the darkest recesses of the heart. What about those simply struggling for survival, fighting for something better? I've witnessed their light on the front lines, in the underworld, in places you have overlooked. Our ancestors built this city, striving in the bitter snow to prolong our civilization. Even if this world is doomed to fall apart, we should allow humanity to pave the way to its final outcome. Not hand over our fate to the seed of ruin. We are guardians, Mother, chosen from among the masses. Our duty is to preserve the world built by humanity. We are not gods. We are not arbiters. You seek to crush human nature underfoot while masquerading as an arbiter and a god. I cannot let you.
So, this is your choice. I understand, Bronya. Pity. Such a pity that you will never see that resplendent world. Unable to free yourself from the shackles of your mind. You know what? You were supposed to be the mother of the new world.
The ground! It's shaking! What's happening?
That sign.
The fate of this city, of Belobog, is sealed. Its future will unfold in our hands. And you will become the foundation of the new world. You must break the old to build the new. The Supreme Guardian commands you. Rise, engine of
It's one of the architect's ancient machines! Watch out, all of you! This robot's 1,000 times bigger than Svarog.
Clemency? Never heard of it.
Time to twirl!
Take this!
Time to twirl!
Step aside. I have no interest in stoking conflict.
Rules are made to be broken. Do not say you're welcome.
Time to twirl! I won't break.
Clemency? Never heard of it.
Do you know who I am? Ever see a diamond this big? It's all yours!
The truth of life and death, revealed in an instant. This sanctuary is but a vision.
You must be honored to meet me. Time to twirl!
Engines, break them!
We have to stop it!
Let's make it quick.
Time to twirl! Let me tend to your wounds. What's in your prescription? Oh, appropriate. Hey!
Sagacious discernment!
Rules are made to be broken. You're out!
Himeko! It's Himeko!
Hello? Can you see? Because the signal's terrible.
Himeko! You finally spared a thought for us.
What are you talking about? Weldon, I've been up on the you the time. You've got quite the trailblazing mission on your hands. So, how did the guy work? Or, importantly, how do you stop him from working? Over to you guys, I guess.
Grab hold of me!
granted by them!
Shit.
Listen to the power surge! Sing! The Stellaron's promise is the only hope for this world. Just as it dispelled the Antimatter Legion 700 years ago, so too will it wipe you from the face of this world!
Stay alert. Let's make it quick. Take this! Let's go. Rules are made to be broken.
I can't do this.
Let's make it quick. Take this!
Humanity, so weak and foolish, always overestimating their abilities. Let me bestow upon you despair!
Don't tell me it's from another cutscene.
Is this the universe? But I was fighting Cocolia. Why am I here? The last time I came here, I drew Nanook's gaze. Could it be?
The commercial district has fallen. We've transferred the residents to the outer municipal district for the time being. The garrison lost 26 fighters. But
Go on, Japard.
I'm not sure that they're dead. I saw their broken figures lingering in the fragmentum. What happened back there defied all reason. It was madness. Madam Guardian, if this continues...
I know well the consequences, Japard. You may leave.
We know well the consequences.
Nice.
Why do you hesitate, Cocolia? Isn't this what you've always been hoping for? Get out of this cage and take a look at the city. What is there to lose? The efforts of our predecessors, their unfinished research. We can finally see them come to fruition. Give me some soldiers and I'll locate the Stellaron and find out how to save our world.
You need to come to your senses, Serval.
Come to my senses? What are you...
Guards! Miss Serval is tired. Take her to rest. Sequester her lab and detain the researchers. Their work is illegal.
Why, Cocolia? Why have you grown so cold?
Serval Landau, you were my most cherished friend.
There is no promised you.
monsters are surging this way. It's too dangerous here.
Foolish. Weak.
What? Madam, what are you saying?
Only I can understand. They have eyes that do not see, ears that do not hear. Feast on their willful ignorance. Absolve them of their stupidity and fear.
Mother, I still don't understand. The fragmentum corrosion has already spread to the underworld. How will those below ground fend for themselves if we withdraw every guard?
The automatons will ensure their safety. The most important defensive position is here on the surface. If our lines crumble, the underground will vanish in an instant. Our defenses here must be maintained at all costs. These are the choices we make, Branya. As a leader, you must harbor the courage and foresight to choose. You, me, and every Silver Main Guard in the city, all of us must carry out a higher mission. There will come a day when you must make your own choice. Do you understand?
Higher mission?
It is too early, Branya. Still too early. You will understand when the time is right.
The city is drowning in tears. The power of the preservation is fading. We could not defy the will of the Stellaron after all. Yes, but we have no right to judge. The fragmentum had been expanding for the past 700 years. There is no faith nor wealth left for our successors. Only despair. To see the home we vowed to preserve wither away. That in itself is torture. Not to mention the haunting whisper of temptation. The day will come when even the strongest of wills cannot help but give in to such influence. It is only a matter of time before the Amber Lord forsakes us. You are but a stranger to us. And yet you seek to bond your destiny to ours. So be it. What is there to lose when so much has already been lost? Touch the light of the Amber, Trailblazer. See if your will can attract their gaze.
Preservation has made its choice.
Of the plight of this world. Nothing of the wait for its final end.
Even if we are doomed to destruction, we will go bravely, walking hand in hand into the darkness.
No, that end won't come to pass while we're around.
To brave new world. Stay alert.
Trail character.
Defend the weak.
The truth of life and death, revealed in this sanctuary, is but a vision.
You must be honored to meet me. What are you looking at? Let me tend to your wounds. Do you know who I am? Ever see a diamond this big? It's all yours. Looks like somebody needs a doctor. Well, listen, feel free.
Indestructible. Lance ablaze. Flaming lance. Forward.
You must be honored to meet me.
The truth of life and death, revealed in an instant. This sanctuary is but a vision.
Lance up and ready.
Time to twirl.
Time to go on the offensive.
Let me tend to your wounds. Time to show you. What's in your prescription? How appropriate.
Changes everything.
Let me tend to your wounds. Do you know who I am? Ever see a diamond this big? It's all yours. Looks like somebody needs a doctor.
will not take away our hope.
Time to twirl! What are you looking at?
The truth of life and death, revealed in an instant. This sanctuary is but a vision.
You must be honored to meet me.
I'm on guard. To the finish. Lance ablaze. Flaming lance. Forward!
Shit.
Engulf the past.
Let me tend to your wounds. Gotta get those vitamins.
Don't worry about me.
Maybe you can keep it down?
Step aside. I have no interest in stoking conflict.
The power of the Stellaron is with me! You are but cinders of the old world, soon to become ashes! You'll be the architect of a new world!
Looks like somebody needs a doctor. What's in your prescription?
Don't worry about me.
Looks like somebody needs a doctor. Do you know who I am? Ever see a diamond this big? It's all yours. Let me tend to your wounds.
The only redemption. Defend the weak.
What are you looking at?
The truth of life and death, revealed in this sanctuary, is but a vision.
Looks like somebody needs a doctor. Stay off!
Don't worry about me.
I will be the architect of a new world!
Time to twirl! Oh, poor you.
Lance ablaze! Flaming lance! Forward!
You must be honored to meet me. It's gonna hurt. Gotta get those vitamins. How appropriate.
Engulf the past!
Time to show you.
Clemency? Never heard of it.
Lance at the ready. Capture!
We made a choice, go
Step aside. I have no interest in The truth of life and death, revealed in this sanctuary, is but a vision. Deceived me.
It's over.
Mother, did you wake up from that dream?
Wow. That was a tough trailblazing expedition. We made it! But, what are we gonna do with the Stellaron? It's usually Mr. Yang who handles it.
I've informed Himiko and Mr. Yang already. They'll seal the Stellaron.
Nice! The crisis on this world is basically over, right?
The storm still rages on. Now that the Stellaron is sealed, the eternal freeze will slowly recede. Fragmentum won't aggressively expand anymore, but nor will it disappear. Urilo 6 has a chance to return to life, but it will take time. It will depend on the efforts of the people here.
Thank you. All of you. Thank you. I'm fine. Don't worry. There is still much to do. The people will have felt the effects of the engine of creation. There are so many questions to answer, so many truths to reveal. I don't know whether I can get the people to accept all this. Can I really do that? Tell everyone about Mother's true motives? About a lie perpetrated for 700 years?
No. No. No way.
Sila.
I don't know how to explain it, but I don't think there's any other way. In the underworld, we tell the kids, things will be better tomorrow. Everyone knows it's a lie, but it gets them to sleep with some hope. Can you imagine the consequences if we told the people what happened here? They'd be devastated. If we can't trust the Guardians, who or what can we trust?
Mother died to preserve Belobog.
What?
The visitors from beyond the sky told her the secret of the Stellaron. She knew that Alyssa Rand, the first Supreme Guardian, had failed to destroy it. And yet, she decided to challenge its power. A power beyond human comprehension. Supreme Guardian Cocolia sacrificed herself to dispel the dark clouds enveloping this city. From here on out, that's the truth the world will hear. What do you think?
It keeps the hope of preservation alive, at least.
It's logical and hard to disprove.
Why do we have to lie? I'm abstaining. I like telling the truth. But I get what you're trying to do.
I understand. But I must protect those that believe in the architects. For many people, Mother was an outstanding guardian. The whole truth will live on in my mind. All the mistakes, madness, evil, dreams therein. I will be the one to carry that burden. Now, I must take over the duties of the Supreme Guardian and discard my naive fantasies. I'm sorry, Seela. Please, protect this secret with me till the end of our lives.
Say no more. I know what to do.
Thank you. Well then, as promised, let's start rebuilding the bridge between the overworld and the underworld.
Tell me another.
Seela, can you tell everyone in the underworld that the Stellaron has been sealed? And tell them the blockade will soon be over, and they will breathe freely again soon.
Of course. Leave it to me. Nat's probably getting anxious about the delay.
While you do that, I'll head back to the administrative district. I need to tell Jabard and serve.
Are you okay?
What's wrong, Grania? Do you feel sick?
I'm fine. I need to hurry.
She's exhausted. Quick, we need to think of something. You, help me out here.
Right. I almost forgot. You're still wanted by the guards. I might be an underworlder, but at least I don't stand a lead nod to you. Remember to keep the secret. For Brun... No.
So, wanna tell us what happened back there? Don't think you can just reappear on the battlefield with a cool weapon in your hands and skip the story.